be a screw, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 7th part of, What If Hazbinhotel meets JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of WriteAnon on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. The door exploded inwards in a shower of splinters as the crumpled, bloody form of a Cenobite crashed through it. The 4 lieutenants followed after, their steps measured and cautious. Knock knock. Moonshine said, eyes shifting suspiciously. Where is everybody? Guess they watched the news, Bug Boogie grumbled. They booked. Poker Face kicked the limp form on the ground. Why'd you throw the nailhead through the door if you were expecting to surprise them? Those guys PSS me off, said Moonshine, grinning. Besides, what if he booby trapped the door? You can never be too careful with Clean. True enough, said God-Given, swaggering through the entrance. Looks like they caught wind of us. Holy Diver said Clean would notice when I activated the world's time static. Nobody drop your guard, Clean still could have left some nasty surprises for us. God-Given walked into the foyer, stepping over a paper airplane, and looked around. He gouged the floorboards with his metal-shod toe claws. An old memory of a ritzy crowd of demons sprung from the gouges and walked carefree into the foyer, stepping on the rug and bumping into furniture. None exploded. Alright, room's clear. Come on. As the others grouped around him, God-Given knelt down and drew a claw along the floor. Alright. Now, let's see where you ran off to, Lil Kitty. The group, including Clean and the heiress, popped up from the gouge in the wood. God-Given and the others stepped backwards as the scene played out. God-Given glared at the memory of Clean as he spoke. God-Given wasn't surprised that Clean figured out his father's plan. He always was a smart, insufferable but. No, what surprised him was his decision to stand and fight. The Princess of Hell itself pushed her pretty little face into his chest, her eyes begging him to stay with her. Why didn't he? Why not try and run? Sure, God-Given would have tracked them down anyway, but they'd been given plenty of heads up. There was a chance, anyway. So why run upstairs? Did anyone actually buy that Bayou Time garbage? Please. Aw. Bug Boogie crooned. Mean ol' Mr. Clean has a heart. I never would have figured, said Poker Face. Still, he's right. We can't very well chase her and fight him. Ha. Yeah. Moonshine said. Clean's sober, indoors, and has prep time. That's a 4-man job if ever I heard one. No way we're pulling some Mickey Mouse dog's hit like splitting up. That's it. That's why he did it. If God-Given returned with only Clean's head in a sack, it would be nothing less than a failure in his father's eyes. Clean knew this was the case, knew that God-Given's future in his father's organization hung in the balance. No, this wasn't him spontaneously growing a heart. This was some act of unimaginable spite. Even though they were sure to win, Clean would not go easy. He'd drag this out as long as possible. Why? To give the heiress time to escape. To humiliate him. To rob him of this victory. He was here for both of them, and he would get both of them. We're splitting up, said God-Given. Poker Face, Moonshine, you get the princess and kill the witnesses. Bug Boogie, you're with me. What? Bug Boogie exclaimed. You and me against Clean. No, no, he pointed at the memories of Clean and that spider SLT as they made their way to the stairs. Clean and that B from the overpass are heading upstairs. I need you to ice that where. No witnesses. Gigi, you can't be serious. Moonshine said, holding a hand out. You're gonna take him on by yourself? Yeah. Is that a problem? God-given snarled and slapped his hand away. We were sent here to get both Clean and that pale bee. If she gets away, that's Lucifer pissed off and breathing down our necks with no hostage to use against him. Go get her. Kill the witnesses. I'll take care of Clean. Is that clear? Moonshine sighed and nodded, reaching out and patting God-given's shoulder. Be careful, okay? No need to worry, Shine, God-given chuckled. With power of the world, there's nothing he can throw at me that I can't handle. The memory of a paper airplane swooped down the staircase and poked Moonshine's rippling arm with a dull, dry rustle. F. A slow rumbling boom reverberated through the building, causing it to shudder on its foundations. Kira smirked as Angel stumbled. Heh. Bad memories. Whoa. Angel said, steadying himself on Kira's shoulder. The F was that? The memory of the paper airplane, said Kira. I knew they'd check the door and lobby for bombs, so I left the memory of a little something for when they tried to track us. I was wondering what that SHT was all about, said Angel, impressed. DMN, you didn't waste any time. That was some quick thinkin'. That sort of thing is all over these kinds of fights, Kira said, shrugging. You get used to it. He winced and grunted as a familiar, disorienting static filled his head. DMN. He's still alive. What is it? Why do you keep doing that? It's Holy Diver, said Kira as he shook his head, his mind slowly but surely clearing. His power is to stop time, but since coming to hell he's learned to generate a sort of temporal static. While he's doing that, I can't travel back in time with Bites the Dust. Angel stared at Kira for a moment before throwing up his arms. What the F are you talking about? I can travel time. Oh. Yes, said Kira, shrugging. I can rewind time 1 hour. Didn't I mention it? No. Enraged bellows sounded from downstairs. Kira sucked his teeth. TCH. Sounds like I just pissed them off. Angel, get your weapons and get out of here. Right, okay. Angel said, turning to head down the hallway before stopping and turning back. Hey, let me give you something. Yes. Kira said, peering around the corner at the main staircase. What is? Angel grabbed him by the collar, pulled him around and pressed his lips into his. He wrapped his arms around Kira's shoulders and pinned him to the wall in a passionate embrace, his hand snaking up to cup the back of Kira's head, fingers coursing through his blonde hair. Angel ran his tongue along Kira's teeth, tracing them in a jaunty, playful manner. He broke the kiss and drank in Kira's dumbfounded expression, a mischievous smile on his face. For luck, killer. He muttered, a confused, flustered blush forming in his cheeks. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Angel, Angel repeated, mockingly. His smile faltered and he ran a gentle hand down the side of Kira's face. Be careful, okay? Don't go and do anything stupid like getting killed. Kira reached up and took his hand in his. And you. Look after Charlie, and yourself. Angel winked and took off down the hall to his room. He stopped and looked over his shoulder at Kira, watching him turn the corner and race up the stairs. See ya around, killer. The quartet were scattered about the room, ash and smoke whirling about them. There were coughs and groans as the forms stirred on the ground. God-given groaned as he got to his feet. He was sore, but mostly unhurt. Better than unhurt, in fact. He was exultant. He'd done it. He'd froze time. The memory plane had thumped into Moonshine's arm and passed its charge. Time seemed to slow down as Moonshine's hugely muscled arm began to bloat and distort, erupting into smoke and fire. God-given felt it then, almost like a full-body lurch as he entered the world of frozen time. Like a spasm at the center of his mind, a piteous and atrophied muscle straining under abuse. He could feel his grip on this world slipping the second he'd grasped it, but he had grasped it. He'd lasted a mere second, but that was all he needed to act. He severed Moonshine's outstretched arm and gave it a mighty kick. His grip on time slipped that instant and the arm hurtled across the room and exploded, knocking them all flat but leaving them more or less unharmed. Moonshine bellowed, clutching the bleeding stump extruding from his shoulder. Clean, in BSTRD. That's my jerkin, offhand. You're welcome, God-given grumbled, getting to his feet. Patch yourself up and get yourself a princess. Unless you still want to take a swing at Mr. Clean. Moonshine grunted as a cap of barnacles crusted over his bleeding wound. He shot God-given a look before thumping the pommel of his harpoon into the floor. Hey, you have fun with that. Face. Gonna go grab some chicks. Be my wingman. Oh, yes. Poker Face chuckled and flicked his wrist, his angelic cards appearing between his fingers. Ladies love the magic tricks. They took off around the corner and Bug Boogie turned to look at God-given. You sure about this? God-given smirked and straightened his jacket, tugging at his cuffs. Oh, yes. All I need you to do is make sure that we doesn't interrupt again. Think you can do that? Eehehehe. Bug Boogie cackled, wringing his hands together, his mandibles snapping as drool dripped from his serrated mouthparts. Oh yeah. I got some ideas for that tasty little snack. Go have fun, then, God-given said, smirking. Take your time with him. Bug Boogie did a double take. She's a guy. Yeah. God-given said, about to admit he'd seen some of Angeldust's work. Bought some, even. F for a friend. That wasn't important right now. Does it matter? Nope. Bug Boogie clapped in glee. His head tore from his shoulders with a wet snap, his wings roaring like a tiny helicopter. That makes it even better. Here I come, hot stuff. He streaked upwards, smashing through the ceiling. His headless body eagerly ran up the staircase. God-given shook his head and followed after. He almost felt bad for the spider bee. Almost. Here I come. God-given slowly ascended the staircase, a grin pulling across his face. Here I come, you smug prick. The Happy Hotel was a deceptively large structure, easy to take a wrong turn, easy to get lost. Her father had insisted on hiring H. Holmes as the designer, so there had been a process of disarmament when getting the old shack back into working order. Still, the thing was laid out like a maze, with literally hundreds of traps, back doors, and secret passages. Luckily for Charlie, she'd spent the better part of a century getting familiar with the layout, learning all the good hiding spots and places to stash candy. She still stashed candy here and there from time to time. How much further? Husk said, panting. I ain't drunk or sober enough for this much running. Yeah, Charlie, Vaggie said, spear clasped tightly in her hands, her eyes wide. You said there's an exit back here. This place wasn't designed to let people out. Charlie said, exasperated. But we just have to take a few more lefts, a few rights, and go up a hidden staircase and we'll be out. Not very safe to hide your fire exits, Husk grumbled. I just call it a fire exit. Charlie let out a bashful chuckle. It's really more of a, well, Daddy always called it the ant flow emergency hatch, for when Mom was cross with him. He always told me, when red tide's in the clam, it's time to scram. And then we'd go out for ice cream and shoot at homeless people. I liked the ice cream and I'd always miss on purpose. Win-win. Husk and Vaggie exchanged looks. It's a miracle you're as normal as you are, Chuck. So, shouldn't we keep going? Vaggie offered, her tone urgent as she squeezed her spear. I don't care what Kira says, they're probably after us. Did you see all those turns and doors we went through? Charlie peered around the corner. We've got a bit of time to talk things over. Talk what over? Vaggie said, dreading what she knew was coming. You better not say we're splitting up. Yes. Charlie blurted out. I'm the one they're after, so they'll come after me. If I head off into the building, I can get them lost in here. You, Razzle, Dazzle, and Husk, you're just witnesses, they won't go after you if they still haven't caught me. Charlie, that's stupid. Vaggie said, grabbing Charlie by the shoulders. What if they, I don't know, split up themselves and one kills us and the other catches you? How is that any different than them catching all of us? Charlie cupped Vaggie's face, a sad smile on her face. Between Kira and me, they won't have too many hands to spare. I can buy you guys enough time to get to one of my parents' estates, you'll be safe there. Much as I hate to admit it, she's right, said Husk as he pointed at the ceiling. Clean's their prime target, so is Charlie, we're an afterthought. Between Clean and Chuck, that just might be all of M. Tell me about it, said Moonshine as he leaned on the wall behind Husk, unshouldering his harpoon. I mean, only AF idiot would fight Mr. Clean all by themselves. Husk and the goat bois squawked in surprise and leapt back. Vaggie was in front of Charlie in a flash, her spear at the ready. Ah hey, she's got a poker, the one-armed fish demon snorted, unimpressed. Careful now, Missy, that thing's sharp. You'll hurt yourself. I'll hurt you. Vaggie roared, lunging at him. F me, that comeback sucked. With a roll of his wrist, Moonshine's harpoon flashed down in a shimmering arc. Vaggie only barely managed to bring her up in time to catch the razor-edged flew bare inches from her face. With a flick of his massively muscled arm he tore the spear from her grip and into his hand. He examined the spear and nodded approvingly. But hey, this thing ain't bad. Moonshine and Poker Face started forward, the group backed away with every step. How did you find us? Charlie said, her eyes narrowing. You have powers too, don't you? Like Kira? Yeah, like Kira. Poker Face said, grinning. But that ain't how we found you. Then how? Moonshine scoffed and tapped his snout. I can detect a drop of BLD at 100 leagues. A Spritz of Joy by Jean Patou in an enclosed space. May as well have bathed yourself in chum. Heh. Charlie's brow furrowed and she sniffed her collar. Not that you smell like, look, it's great pick, yeah. Elegant, but ebullient. It suits you, your majesty. Oh, thank you, Charlie chirped, stepping out in front of Vaggie. She flicked her hair over her shoulder and flashed the two gangsters a big puppy dog stare. I don't suppose there'd be any way for me to talk you two out of this, huh? Nope. None. Darn. Charlie reached into her pocket and produced a small bottle of joy and threw it in Moonshine's face. The thin glass shattered, coating the fish demon's sensitive chemoreceptors and eyes in perfume. Moonshine stumbled back, roaring in pain and surprise. Poker Face drew a card in. A flash, but not before Vaggie rushed in close and grabbed his wrist. Then, with a practiced motion, drove her knee up and between his legs with a resounding thwack. Poker Face was lifted off the ground for a moment before collapsing into a wheezing heap on the floor, his eyes wide as they bugged out of his skull. He dropped his card as his hands shot to his PP. Vaggie swept in and grabbed her dropped spear up from the ground. A thin, whistling sounded from behind and she ducked just in time to dodge the deadly edge of Moonshine's harpoon. She looked up as he loomed over her. All but one of his eyes were squeezed shut, red and weeping. Eyes met. He glared down at her, she glared up at him. She hopped to her spear and readied herself, placing herself between the killer and her friends. He paused, blinking furiously, but he did not attack, merely adopting a defensive posture. Vaggie smirked and felt a pang of dread, even when in pain and enraged, this guy had enough self-control not to attack half-blind. This was going to be tough. Charlie popped in behind her and pulled on a candlestick poking out of the wall. There was a click, and the floor dropped out from under Husk and the goat bois. They screamed in surprise and plummeted into the darkness. Charlie scrambled over to the trap door and shouted after them. "Raz, Daz. Get Husk to safety." "Bah." Razzle called back. "Bah," said Dazzle, somewhat less enthusiastic. Charlie got to her feet and turned to Vaggie. "If I told you to jump in there." Vaggie smiled at Charlie over her shoulder. "I'd tell you to go F yourself." Charlie smiled and shook her head. "And you have the nerve to call me stubborn. You love it." Charlie grabbed her by the wrist and pulled her over to the opposite wall. She looked back at Poker Face and Moonshine, who were beginning to recover. "It was nice meeting you. Bye." She pressed a circular pattern in the wallpaper. There was another click, followed by the sound of grinding concrete as the section of wall rotated inward, taking them with it. "F in." Moonshine growled, smashing his spear into the floorboards and vigorously rubbed his eyes. "Face. Take care of the face. How the F did she kick me in the b-ball?" Poker Face sputtered, still kneeling with his head to the floor and his hands between his legs. "They're internal. Gather your nuts and put M in your purse, you pissy pile of boot leather." Moonshine snarled. "You go after the drunk and the livestock. I've got dibs on the princess and her befriend. Take M." Poker Face got to his feet and gave a strained smile. "Me and that drunk have some unfinished business." Moonshine roared and lunged forward, smashing through the trick wall as though it weren't there. An overwhelming cloud of joy underscored by day-old fish hung in the air. "Holy Diver ain't here to save you this time, Subway." Poker Face chuckled as stood over the trapdoor, shuffling his cards in one hand. "It's just you, me, and the cards now." He sniffed the air coming out of the trapdoor. It was cold and dry, with the faint but unmistakable scent of potatoes. He set off back down the hallway. "See you there." Angel peeked out from behind the door. Once satisfied that the coast was clear, he stepped out into the hallway, his arms laden with various purses, bags, and totes. "Just the essentials, haha." He set off down the hallway and towards the fire escape. Angel clumsily maneuvered as many bags as he attempted to open the window. He unshouldered his totes and filed them through the tiny opening and out onto the balcony of the fire escape. A dry rustling sound echoed from down the hall, the scuttling of legs, the creak of plaster, and the unmistakable flutter of wings. Angel spun about in an instant, for Tommy guns primed and ready. He scanned the hall, beads of sweat forming on his brow, eyes darting back and forth. The hallway was empty. "Ha! Must be hearin' things," muttered Angel, lowering his choppers. With a crackling snap the floorboards bulged outward, splinters tearing up through the carpet. The fissure streaked forwards, plowing its way through the floor towards Angel, throwing up plumes of dust, shards of wood, and shreds of carpet. Angel loosed a defiant cry and opened fire. His 4 submachine guns roared to life and a barrage of bullets converged onto one point, pulverizing the floor in front of the oncoming menace. With frightening speed, it changed direction, decking around the fusillade and up the wall. It tore through the plaster and lathes with even greater ease, closing in on its prey. Angel unleashed another blast of full automatic fire, tearing a long, wide gash into the wall. Once again the thing changed direction, spiraling around the stream of bullets and trailing up the wall and onto the ceiling. It stopped not 6 feet from Angel. He trained his guns up at it, eyebrows knit close together, gold tooth glinting in a focused grimace. The lump on the ceiling didn't move, the only sound in the room was that of falling debris and crumbling plaster. Angel dared not take his eyes off it, his fingers twitched over the triggers, his heart pounded in his ears like the infernal bass of some distant rave. He needed a hit right now. A low, droning buzz from behind drew his attention. Careful not to take an eye off the bulge, haha, he slowly angled his head back, cocking an ear. The sound was not unlike a lawnmower, or an RC plane, or a creepy flying bug demon. Angel leapt out of the way just in time to avoid the shower of glass as something black and glossy streaked by. He felt a slight snag, as though he'd been shoved from behind. Angel thought nothing of it as he ducked and rolled, bringing all of his guns to bear on the hovering figure. Sure enough, it was that bug-faced but from the overpass. He shored up his sights, all 3 guns leveled on the speedy little SHT. Wait. 3. It was then that Angel saw something in Bug's pincers. Something long and slender, something white with a red elbow-length glove, clutched in its hand was a Tommy gun. His Tommy gun. His arm. Oh, no. Angel looked down at his left side, a short, clean-cut stump where his lower left used to be. A long square of magenta BLD issued from it as a larger stain oozed down his side, as. This was my favorite top. You got any idea how long it takes to get BLD out of white satin? I wouldn't worry about it, said Bug Boogie, pulling the bloody stump into his mouth and devouring the arm like a beansprout, leaving the Tommy gun to clatter on the ground. He chewed for a moment before grinning with magenta-stained teeth. You're not gonna be around that long. Bug Boogie chattered his mandibles and a seraphim steel blade extruded from his mouth. His wings roared as he charged, razor-sharp pincers spread wide, his dagger glinting. Angel held his ground, his remaining Tommy guns primed and ready. At the last moment, he let off a short burst, causing Bug to swerve. Angel took this tiny window and leapt towards his attacker, guns blazing. Bug bobbed and weaved around the bullets as they streaked by, unharmed but unable to attack his prey. Angel ducked and rolled down the hall, popping out his 3rd pair of arms and deftly grabbing up his 4th Tommy gun off the floor. No sooner that he had stopped rolling, Angel produced, armed, and threw a small green hand grenade. Bug Boogie grunted in surprise and streaked to the left, effortlessly punching a hole in the wall. An instant later and a short, powerful explosion split the air, blasting a small crater in the floor and tearing the walls apart with scattershot shrapnel. Angel smirked and ran down the hall, ducking into the rec room. He peered around the corner and listened. Sure enough, he heard buzzing and crashing throughout the hotel. Angel considered bolting for the fire escape, but quickly discarded the notion, as fighting this guy was bad enough in an enclosed space. His mind raced, searching desperately for a way out. He was too fast for his Tommy guns, guy could just zip around the bullets as they flew. Going outside was instant death, and staying in here was just slightly prolonged death. He was trapped. Trapped. Angel's eyes snapped open, a wide toothy grin spread across his face. That could work. Stop. Husk panted and huffed as he was pulled along by Razzle and Dazzle. FANFICTION stop. They slowed down and let go of his hand, wringing their hooves together, looking about nervously. Husk leaned on his knees and panted, as though trying to dislodge what felt like a hot coal from his lungs. He scanned his surroundings, the goats had hit the ground running and practically dragged him along, it was all he could do to keep up. He immediately recognized the room they were in as the pantry. His eyes lit up as he rushed over to a nearby sack of potatoes. After a second digging through the tubers and laughed triumphantly, holding up a bottle of Johnny Walker Black. He capped it and took a hard pull. Pa! Alright, let's go. Razzle and Dazzle exchanged unimpressed looks and beckoned him to follow. The trio took off down the adjoining walkway and up a flight of stairs that led into the ceiling. They unlatched it and exited into the hotel's large, walk-in freezer. Once out they slammed the door shut and Husk knocked one of the large food racks over on top of it, with Razzle and Dazzle piling sacks of yams and whole turkeys on top. Satisfied that no one was going to follow them through that door, the trio filed out of the freezer and into the kitchen. Husk contemplated grabbing one of the razor-sharp kitchen knives or a meat cleaver, but immediately dismissed the notion as foolish. He was a lover, not a fighter. Well, a shitty lover, but an even shittier fighter. Come on. He called to the goats, opening the kitchen door and waving them on. Let's get the F outta here. Bah! Said Razzle, his eyes wide. Bah! Dazzle said, pointing over Husk's shoulder. Husk turned around, his eyes narrowing. Standing in the doorway of the dining room was a tall, well-built gecko demon, his poker-themed three-piece suit perfectly cleaned and pressed. A small, self-satisfied smirk pulled at the corners of his wide, lipless mouth as he shuffled a silvery metallic deck of cards in one hand. Hello, Husk. Pokey, Husk snarled. How are you now? Good, and you? Not as bad. He jerked his head at the trembling pair behind him. Let them go. They got nothing to do with all this. Now, Husk, you know I can't do that, said Poker Face, walking towards them. Boss has a very comprehensive policy when it comes to witnesses. Quoth Holy Diver, no witnesses. See? Not much wiggle room there. Husk glanced back into the kitchen, to the shiny steel knives, the meat cleaver. Could he reach it in time? Don't you mean Holy Diver? Ha! You really can't help it, can you? Poker Face said, pulling out a chair from the dining table and taking a seat. But that's all right. In fact, this is perfect. See, we've a score to settle, you and I. It was all a test to gauge your usefulness to Holy Diver's operation, sure, but after I lost to you there was some judgment. The guys were calling me Pokey for a month. Oh, so what? It's personal now. Oh yes. Very. Poker Face smiled a cruel, black-toothed smile. Come. Have a seat and crack a deck. Husk's eyes narrowed. What's in it for me? I could kill you all right now, said Poker Face, before tapping his chin in thought and shrugging. Ah, well, how about this? You win, you and the goats go free. Hell, I could even get you three a job in the boss's organization. And if you win? Husk said, slowly making his way over to the table. Poker Face's eyes glinted with cold joy. Then your souls belong to me. Husk paused and looked over at Razzle and Dazzle. The poor little guys were clutching each other, quivering. How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't, said Poker Face, gesturing at the far side of the table. Now, sit. Husk snapped his fingers and beckoning Dazzle to follow him. Dazzle, you're dealing. Razzle, fix us up some drinks. Bee-bah, Razzle shuffled off into the kitchen as Dazzle hopped up onto the table. Texas Hold'em. Poker Face said, a wry look on his face. How do I know this cute little guy won't cut the deck in your favor? I'd be just as surprised as you if he did, Husk snorted. This little SHT burns cornflakes. Dazzle grumbled and picked up the deck, shuffling the cards. He bleated in pain and surprise as a wisp of smoke trailed up from his finger. Careful, Poker Face crooned. They're sharp. Bear in mind that the stakes are raised, 1 token each. Throw down the flop. Dazzle sucked on the cut and continued shuffling the deck. It was obvious to both of them that he'd never shuffled before, but he managed. He dealt the cards, 2 to each of them and 3 between them, a pair of 2 of hearts and a 6 of clubs, and sat back on the table. Razzle showed up with the drinks, scotch on the rocks, and set it next to them. All right, Poker Face said, checking his cards. Now, let's begin. The sound of moonshine smashing through the wall echoed off the bare concrete walls of the narrow, winding passageway. I'm coming, Your Highness. Moonshine roared as he ran after them. If you give up now, I promise I won't hurt you. Charlie ran as fast as her legs could carry her, dragging Vaggie along behind her. This way. Vaggie looked back over her shoulder as they turned another corner. The sounds of his footsteps were like hammer strikes, his huge bulky shadow cast long and far by the dingy potlights in the ceilings. There was no way to tell if he was getting closer. Charlie, where are we going? We're trying to lose him, she said, pulling Vaggie around a corner and down another flight of stairs. That perfume I doused him with ought to keep him from tracking us. Charlie stopped them at the base of a staircase and began feeling along the bare, cold concrete wall. Come on, come on. Vaggie clutched her spear in her hands, her knuckles white as she squeezed the hard, powerful thuds of his footsteps seemed to increase in pitch and intensity. He was getting closer. Charlie. Hold on, hold on. She muttered, a bright smile lighting up her face as she found what she was looking for. Here. She pressed a nearly invisible indentation in the wall and the solid concrete split into 12 slabs that receded into the wall from the top down, forming stairs. Charlie grabbed Vaggie by the wrist and pulled her up the stairs and into a hallway. Charlie pointed to the far end of the hall, a double-wide door with a glowing red exit sign above it. It was the most appealing thing Vaggie had seen in her life. There it is. They started towards it when the floor exploded upwards in a shower of wood splinters and concrete as a massive shape burst through and set down on the floor. Moonshine stood between them and the exit, his bulk taking up much of the hallway despite his missing arm. He brandished his harpoon and took a step forward, his yellow eyes bloodshot and furious. Run if you like, it'll just make it worse for you, he rumbled, baring his needle-like fangs. Vaggie looked around for a way out, finding an elevator. She drew her spear and swooped in around Charlie's left, stealthily tapping the button on the panel and stepping in front of her friend, spear at the ready. You'll have to go through me first, cara de pez chamando. Moonshine grinned and tapped her with his flu. Well, gee, gorsh, if I have to. Vaggie. Charlie set her hand on her shoulder from behind, her tone desperate. Come on, let's run. We can outrun him. No, we can't, Vaggie said. Charlie, you have to get out of here. I'll hold him off. No, don't do that, Moonshine said to Charlie. If you run, I'll definitely kill your friend. As slowly and horribly as possible. But if you, say, give yourself up. I'm a reasonable demon, I could be persuaded to spare her. Hell, we'll even take her with us. It'll be like a sleepover or slumber party or whatever bullshit you kids get up to these days. I'm much older than you, said Charlie, annoyed. The elevator dinged and Vaggie sprung into action. Before the doors had even opened, she leapt forward in a mighty lunge. Moonshine leapt backwards, well out of reach of the spear tip. Vaggie drew back and drove the pommel of her spear into Charlie's solar plexus, knocking the wind out of her. She swooped in and caught her before she could fall and threw Charlie into the elevator. She selected a floor without looking, not taking her eyes off of the advancing fish demon. Vaggie slashed the control panel with her spear, the holy metal shredding it in a shower of sparks, destroying it utterly. She pressed the door button and leapt out through the closing doors just in time to head off Moonshine, locking spears with the much larger demon. She looked back to the elevator, the last thing she saw was Charlie shakily getting to her feet, breathless but her eyes called out to her. The doors slid shut and the elevator began its slow, leisurely pace to whatever floor it was heading to. Vaggie hoped Charlie would be safer there, and that she wouldn't do anything stupid like try and rescue her. She broke the lock with Moonshine and leapt back, adopting a defensive stance, her eye blazing. I won't let you have her. Even if I die, you won't lay a disgusting paw on her. Moonshine merely smiled and sighed. Ah, you remind me of my mother. I'll kill you quick like. Painless. Kira stood in the middle of the hallway. He clenched his left hand into a fist, moving it about in his brace. He breathed in deep and let it go, centering himself as he held his hand up in front of him. The bare, ghostly image of sheer heart attack flickered on the floor for a moment, only to vanish an instant later. DMN. If only he had a little more time to heal. He chose not to dwell on the if-onlys, instead steeling himself for the coming fight. They were coming, and they had some new tricks. Kira's suspicions had been confirmed the second the memory bomb had gone off. Holy Diver wasn't here. There was no way he would have been gulled by such a simple trick. The fact that he and Charlie weren't already in his clutches only lent credence to this theory. It stood to reason that someone else was making the time static that kept him from resetting this increasingly terrible situation, but who? And how? Kira had theories, certainly, but that would have to wait. His old friends were about to arrive. A lone figure turned the corner, a tallish, blonde mole demon. Kira noted his relaxed posture and cocky attitude, his cold stare and warm smile. He'd seen God-given like this often, almost always when he had someone trussed up and helpless. It all made sense now. "Oh, hey," he said, his tone winsome and amicable. "Long time no see. How's rehab been treating you, Kira?" "Can't complain, Donnie," said Kira. "Where's the gang? You didn't actually come up here to fight me all by yourself, did you?" "And what if I did?" God-given said, examining his claws. "You so eloquently spelled out your plan to those idiots down there. Why, it was almost like you were telling me on purpose." "Well, I called your bluff. Bet you weren't expecting this, were you?" "This is unexpected, true," said Kira, derision dripping from every syllable. "Though, to be fair, I can't be asked to account for shocking idiocy. Talk big all you like. I've developed powers you couldn't hope to comprehend, much less match. It's in my BLD to dominate, to conquer. Your corpse be just the first in the foundations of my ascent to godhood." Kira seemed not to hear a word. "Tell me, did he go in through the back, or the front?" God-given blinked in surprise. "What?" "When he gave you his stand," said Kira, his tone patient and patronizing as though talking to a small child. "Stand synergy. I've dabbled in it myself, you know. He's been trying that one for ages. Understandably, I mean such a thing could theoretically make even you dangerous, Donnie." "What?" Kira shot him a condescending smirk. "Oh. He didn't. No, I suppose he wouldn't. I mean, do scientists tell lab rats what's in the needle?" "Ha ha ha. So, he stuck a piece of his brain in yours and now, what, you think you have all his powers? Please. If you had a whit of his speed and strength, that memory bomb wouldn't have gotten within 10 feet of you. It's clear that your grasp on the world is very weak. You've enough control to make static, but not much else. Even if you can stop time, it's only for an instant. Though, even that would have been a problem for me if you showed up with your buddies. But, as is, I'll be done with you before too long. You underestimate me." "I overestimated you, Donnie," Kira sneered. "Not in a million years I could have predicted you'd be this arrogant, this deluded, this stupid. So, tell me, was it through the back, or the front? Why do you want to know?" Kira smiled. "Because if he implanted it in the back of your head, it means he didn't trust you not to flinch." God-given bared his teeth and started walking towards Kira. "Enough talk." Kira strolled towards him. "Agreed." God-given roared and hurled himself at Kira. "The world." The mole demon flickered, running through the bare instance of stop time he could muster. Kira maintained his calm easygoing pace, adjusting his suit jacket with aplomb. God-given closed the distance in mere seconds, his toe claws tearing long slashes into the floorboards. Kira was within reach, frozen in time, helpless. God-given lashed out with his steel talons, aiming to skewer his quarry's heart. At the last moment he noticed the smirk on Kira's frozen face. That familiar, infuriating, self-satisfied smile could only mean one thing: gotcha. God-given hesitated, stopping himself just short of touching him. His grip on time slipped and Kira's smirk blossomed into a grin. Before he could freeze time again, Kira's fist smashed into the side of his face. God-given's head snapped to the side with the impact and stars exploded behind his eyes. "Not quite as stupid as I thought." Kira grabbed him by the collar and held the dazed mole demon up. "Now, what is it your father is always saying?" "Oh yes, that's right. Ria. He threw the dazed mole demon into the air and unleashed a punishing rush of punches. God-given twisted and contorted in midair, his body floating atop a crushing blur of fists. Kira broke the rush and delivered a single devastating roundhouse kick that sent him flying upwards, smashing a hole into the ceiling before plummeting down to the floor. God-given quickly got to his feet only for his legs to buckle out from under him. He knelt, panting unsteadily, he spat a wad of BLD and glared up at Kira as he loomed over him. "Why you turned yourself into a bomb?" "Maybe," said Kira as he straightened his tie. "Touch me and find out." God-given growled and froze time, leaping to his feet and slashing at Kira with his talons. Careless with rage, his time ran out just as his claws neared Kira's throat. The much faster panther demon swatted his claws away and smashed the back of his fist into God-given's snout with a grisly crunch. God-given rallied and swung at him with a messy haymaker. Kira ducked out of the way as the talons shredded the wall. He bobbed back up and jabbed with his right, catching God-given across the jaw. The mole demon stumbled back, freezing time long enough to regain his balance, and aimed a powerful roundhouse at Kira. Kira stepped forward, inside the radius of God-given's kick, causing him to overextend and bury his toe claws in the wall. He lunged forward in an instant, putting all his strength and weight behind a crushing knee strike to the solar plexus, sending God-given flying backwards down the hallway. God-given dug his talons and toe claws into the floor, drawing long, deep gouges into the carpet and wood as he slowed himself to a stop. God-given lurched forward onto his hands and knees and coughed, BLD pouring from his nose and mouth. "Guh. Kira cocked his head and set a hand to his ear. "What was that?" "You'll have speak up, lad. You know, they say that you can't think straight if your nose is plugged. Do you need a handkerchief?" "PSS in your shoes, but," said God-given, shakily rising to his feet. "I'm still in this fight. MHM. Kira ran his thumb across his fingertips, smiling as his claws remained sheathed. "You know, it's funny. I've been doing well, haven't felt the need to kill in days. Then you and your backup dancers kick down my door and threaten a relapse. But here I am, staring down someone I detest and, nothing. I could just as easily let you go right now. In fact, get out of here, I'm tired of looking at you." God-given clenched his fists, his face contorting in rage. But then, suddenly, a smile pulled at the sides of his mouth. He chuckled and wiped the BLD from his chin. "You're right. I overestimated my ability to use my father's powers. I allowed them to make me overconfident and careless. But now I realize that I don't need to beat you. I just need to keep you busy long enough for the others to butcher your friends." Kira felt a strange surge of alien feelings, of panic, of dread. He was safe, certainly, but what about Charlie? Or Angel? He'd been so distracted with putting this little BSTRD in his place that he hadn't considered what the other gangsters were up to. "Oh, don't worry." God-given grinned, he knew he struck a nerve. "All your friends are probably dead by now. Bugs after that tasty little where you've been pawing around with, and you know how he gets with the pretty ones." He was real excited to take a bite out of that. Kira felt his heart drop, he'd seen the aftermath of Bug Boogie's fun on more than one occasion. "Angel, oh, God, Angel. And that pretty little princess. I saw how she latched onto you, how you looked at her. Is there something going on there?" God-given sneered. "Anyway, Moonshine and Face will probably keep her in one piece, or at least bring back enough for Holy Diver to ransom. Oh, and don't you worry, we'll all be real friendly to her while she's our guest. All of us. We'll take turns being her friend, even. Who knows, maybe by the end of it she'll look at me the same way she looks at you." Kira's pupils narrowed to slits, his claws sprang from his fingertips as his hackles rose. When he spoke, his voice was calm and measured. "I guess I'll have to finish up here and go give them a hand, then. There we go." God-given cackled, his arms spread wide. "Come and get me, Mr. Clean." Kira lunged forward, his teeth bared as his right hand reached out. God-given brought his hands down and stopped smiling, his expression cold and focused. Idiot. Something sprang up behind Kira, a tall, spindly shape backdropped by a pair of furled, feathery wings. He sidestepped just in time, the holy spear tip that would have pierced his heart instead only sliced a long, smoking gash along his side. Kira spun around to face his assailant. Its body was dull gray, like old marble, its face black and glossy like a television screen, the red graphics that were its leering eyes and grinning mouth flickered and jittered in a glitchy, mechanical fashion. Atop a pair of curved, caprine horns was a glowing platinum halo with a gleaming gem inset at its central ornament. Standing in front of Kira was the memory of an exorcist. God-given hadn't been trying to hit him this whole time, he'd been surrounding him with holes, tears, and gouges from which to conjure his ultimate weapon. Now, all around him, identical creatures clambered out from the numerous slashes and holes God-given had left in the floor, walls and ceiling. 5, then 10, Kira found himself surrounded by a dozen of the deadly angels. In their hands were spears, swords, and bows, all cast from seraphim steel. The exorcists closed in around him, silently laughing as they closed on their quarry. Kira tensed and prepared for battle when a short, musical ding sounded to his left. The elevator. He and the crowd of exorcists stopped and turned to look as the doors opened. Inside was Charlie, her eyes wide. She looked around at the assembled angels and Kira. "Ah," said Charlie, a nervous smile on her face as she waved at them. "Hi." "Ha," grunted God-given. "Guess it's my lucky day." "Oh, my God," Charlie muttered, hoarse with shock. "Are those angels?" "Charlie," Kira said, horrified. "What are you doing here?" "Well, it's a long story," said Charlie, her eyes darting back and forth between Kira and the angels. "You see, watch out." An exorcist leapt forward in a flash, spear at the ready. Kira barely reacted in time, dodging the move and grabbing the spear. He hissed at the exorcist and surged his power into the angelic weapon. Weakened by passing through the holy metal, the explosive charge sizzled and sparked as it pulsed through the angel's body. Flashes of orange light blossomed all over its body, leaving patches of dissolving ash and smoke in their wake. Undaunted, the exorcist continued to wrestle with Kira over the spear, its grinning mouth and flickering eyes turning a deep blood red as it slowly but surely overpowered him, forcing him to his knees. Kira growled in exertion and gave the spear one great twist. The angel's hand snapped off at the wrist, the stumps glowed like dim embers as the destructive energy coursed through its body. The angel examined its sparking stumps, its expression jittering before settling into a distressed grimace. Kira delivered a powerful kick to the crumbling angel's midsection, sending it flying backwards into a wall where it exploded into a cloud of dust. He swirled around to see a trio of spears converging on him. Kira managed to bring his weapon up just in time to glance the spear tips up and over his shoulders. The three angels leered down at him as they locked shafts with his and leaned down onto him together. Kira grimaced and braced himself, feeling the floorboards buckle and splinter under his feet as the angels brought their gargantuan strength to bear. He felt himself being inexorably crushed into the floor, his arms and legs burned with exertion. Above him the glowing, flickering faces of the exorcists loomed, an unmistakable self-righteous contempt radiated from their smiles in waves. They redoubled their efforts and leaned in, sparks flying from where the spears intersected. Kira smirked. Pushing off of their spears, he flung himself between their legs, causing them to topple forward into their faces, their wings and spears tangling together. Kira skidded across the floor and shot to his feet, ripping a button off of his suit and tossing it at the struggling angels. The button bouncing off of one of their upturned faces with a dull, plastic click. The angels on the floor were consumed in a flood of light as a massive explosion split the air, shattering the walls, ceiling, and floor, collapsing the hallway in on itself and the angels. Kira flew backwards into the open elevator, slamming into the far wall with enough force to crumple the metal. "Kira," Charlie said, coughing as the smoke and dust hung in the air. Are you okay? Kira rushed forward, shoving his fingers into the sheet metal doors and slamming them shut with a wrenching, metallic shriek. He ran his finger down the seam where the doors met. A rapid series of micro-explosions snapped and crackled as he welded the door shut. That done, he turned to the control panel, sighing in exasperation upon seeing its utter destruction. Of course. Kira. Charlie said. What's going on? Why are there angels out there? God-given can summon physical constructs of any event that's happened in Pentagram City from breaks in surfaces. That includes the angels that show up periodically to murder a fraction of the population. That seems incredibly unfair. How are we supposed to fight that? Well, we're not going to, said Kira, scanning the interior of the elevator. You have to get out of here. What? No. I can fight. They're after me, too. Which is precisely why you have to run. If they capture you, it could start a war that would devastate hell itself. But our friends. Vaggy's fighting that fish guy. I heard gunfire on the way up here, so Angel's probably in trouble, too. I don't even know what's happening to Husk and Razzle and Dazzle. We have to help them. Kira shook his head and looked away, staring up at the ceiling. Out of the question, I will. Charlie grabbed his arm and turned him back around to face her, her expression soft but unyielding. You tried to protect us, and I'm grateful for that, but our friends are in danger. You can't do this by yourself, so please, let me help. Kira locked eyes with her. She returned the stare, her brow furrowing as she tried her best to seem intimidating. He blinked first and sighed, shaking his head. All right. Fine. But first, we have to get out of here. Oh. There's an escape hatch on the elevator roof. It's probably locked, hold on. Charlie rummaged around in her pockets for a moment. Shoot. I could have sworn I had my keys on me. Here, He reached into his pocket and hissed, yanking it out and shaking it vigorously. What is it? Are you okay? A small filament of smoke trailed up from the small cut in his fingerpad. He carefully reached back into his pocket, producing a small shard of seraphim steel. He pocketed the little shard. May come in handy. What? He ripped another button off his jacket and threw it upwards, and a small, sharp explosion consumed the ceiling. Charlie cried out and ducked, covering her head as smoking debris bounced off of her. She waited a moment before opening her eyes and looking up. The safety hatch had been blown out, along with a significant chunk of the ceiling. If we live through this, Vaggy is going to flip when the repairs bill comes in. Kira knelt down and knit his hands together into a step. Come on, I'll boost you up there. Ah, that's so sweet of you. Charlie cooed before effortlessly leaping some 10 feet into the air. She hung off the cable and called down to him, a playful, teasing smile on her face. Well? Hurry up. Kira cleared his throat, a little embarrassed, when a spear tip burst through the door, followed by another, and another. He wasted little time following after her, hurriedly clambering up the main cable as the sounds of rending metal echoed out of the steel box. He looked down and saw the exorcists pile into the cab, their flat, twitchy expressions confused as they scanned the interior for their prey. They looked up through the hole, wide red crescent grins filling up their visors. Kira smiled back at them as he hung from the main hoist cable, his right thumb cocked. Fly, 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 little angels. He pushed the SWCH and the heavy metal anchor holding the cab to the cab exploded violently. The exorcists' faces simultaneously flickered from malicious grins to mortified grimaces. The cab lurched downward, groaned, and finally let loose, plummeting into the dark with a screech, sparks from the guide wheels visible all the way down to the ground floor. Kira chuckled to himself when Charlie snicked up above him. Fly, 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 little angels. Because they're falling, and they have wings but can't, you know what, I'd like to hear you do better. Charlie shimmied her way down the cable. Oh. How about going down? His ear twitched in irritation. SHT. Or maybe, call for you in the lobby, you better go take it. Alright, that's Inu. Boo. Boo. Next time, take the stairs, or... Charlie. Kira barked, climbing up to her. Climb now, one-liners later. A huge, reverberating boom filled the elevator, rattling the metal and causing the cable to jostle and swing. Dust poured down from up above along with small pieces of debris. That took a hot second, said Charlie, a nervous twinge in her voice as she climbed up. How high up are we? High enough that you probably shouldn't look down, Kira said, smirking. Angel poked his head out into the hallway, scanning with eyes and ears for that creepy bug-headed freak. A huge explosion from somewhere else in the hotel shook the building on its very foundations, causing the lights to flicker and plaster dust to trickle down to the ground. You show, killer. Angel said, grinning. Cut those F down to size. He stepped out and made his way down the hall towards his room, his Tommy guns at the ready. His steps were slow, steady, measured. He dared not make a sound. He just had to make it to his room, if he could just get there. The floor exploded in front of him, causing him to leap back. The roar of wings filled the hall, Bug Boogie gnashed his jaws at Angel, drool dripping onto the floor. Still trying to escape, eh? Understandable. You find yourself in the clutches of Bug Boogie. The Tearer. The Slicer. Ravager. Mutilator. Your suffering will be legendary, even in hell. I will tear open your... Angel stood and waited as the beetle demon hovered in front of him. Bug Boogie's jaws were flapping as his grotesque face contorted with malicious glee, his skinny little legs gesticulating wildly. The buzzing howl of his wings filled the air, drowning out all other sound. Was he saying something? Angel cocked his head and tried to listen, cupping a hand to his ear. What? Bug Boogie raised his voice. I said you will scream for mercy as I... His words blurred together with the stifling roar of rushing air. Chew up or akanals. Angel muttered. The F are you talkin' about? Allow me to demonstrate. Bug Boogie streaked forward. Angel stumbled back, Tommy guns roaring. Bug Boogie dodged and weaved around the streams of bullets, swooping in from the side. Angel slipped on a piece of debris and toppled backwards, falling just out Bug's path, his razor-sharp pincer streaked by close enough to touzle his short face fuzz. Angel, acting on a killer's instinct well honed by decades in hell, filled the air to his left with bullets. Bug Boogie flared out his wings to stop himself and doubled back, just as he turned to face his prey, dozens of bullets whizzed by. Quick as ever, his tucked and rolled through the air. Not quick enough, as a single bullet grazed the carapace above his eyes, tearing the shell away in a long jagged gash. Green, foul-smelling BLD poured from the wound and into his eyes, blinding him. Ah! Bug Boogie roared. You effin' where? Where's get paid? Angel rolled to his feet and leveled his choppers at the thrashing insect. This one's a freebie. Before Angel could pull the triggers, Bug Boogie dived into the floor. Angel took a step forward to examine the hole when Bug burst from the ceiling directly above him, pincers spread wide like deadly scythes. Angel leapt backwards just in time as a mandible that would have cleaved his head from his shoulders flashed before his eyes. Angel looked on in horror as clumps of white and pink hair fluttered to the floor like snow. He reached up to run his fingers through his expertly styled bangs, only to find them shorn away. My do. Bug Boogie doubled back and streaked for the source of the dismayed cry. Angeldust unleashed a fusillade of bullets at the blinded demon, but once again he proved too swift and swerved into a nearby wall, punching a hole into it. Angel wasted no time and took off down the hall in a sprint. His KNKY boots clopped on the carpeted hardwood like little hammer strikes. Bug Boogie was hot on his heels, bursting from the walls, floor, and ceiling, razor edges whistling as they cut through the space Angel had been only instants before. Angel deked off to the side of the hall, hurling himself at a door, knocking it open. Angel wasted little time appending his coat dresser in front of the door. He turned about to see a tall, spindly headless body standing in front of his lavish full-length dressing mirror. Draped over his form was one of Angel's best dresses. The body started and attempted to hide the dress behind his back. Ah, SHT. Bug Boogie's head burst in through one of his already broken windows and hovered. His body walked over and seated the flying head on his shoulders. He dabbed the BLD out of his eyes with the dress. "Hey!" Angel cried. "That's a silk dress you're messin' up there. I made it myself. And I bet it looks great on you," Bug Boogie crooned, blinking his eyes as his sight was restored. "Maybe I'll keep enough pieces of you to fill it out." Thinking quickly, Angel reached over and flicked the SWCH to his hangover shutters. The lights went out and heavy steel shutters slammed down in front of the windows with a loud clank, plunging the room into total darkness. The sound of scuttling limbs and clopping boots sounded from all around him, the floors, the walls, even the ceiling. Bug Boogie didn't even bother to follow his movements, able to guess exactly what the panicking spider was up to, trying to distract him with noise while he made his escape. The lights flicked back on and Angel skidded to a stop. Between him and the door was Bug Boogie, his finger on the SWCH. Bug Boogie grinned and started forward, arms spread wide. "Have to say, I'm flattered. It's not often a hot piece like you invites me into his room. Maybe after I do a little pruning, you and me can break in that bed of yours. You pissed me off, kid, and after I'm done with you, you'll beg for my blade. But, until then." His head launched from his shoulders, wings roaring, jaws gnashing, pincers snapping open and shut. His voice was high and frenzied, loud and clear over the din of his wings. "Come give daddy a kiss." He made one last rush at Angel, a huge toothy grin on his face. The spider brought up his Tommy guns in a defiant but futile gesture. Good, he didn't like it when it was too easy. Husk knocked back his third tumbler of scotch in as many minutes. Not to employ his ingenious, drink your tails away, gambit. No, this wasn't that sort of game. Rather, it was merely a measure to make Poker Face's endless smug warbling only somewhat unbearable. Husk had no illusions, all that talk about sparing their lives was just so much belching outside a pub, noise and stupor. This game was a sham to prop up some braying jackass's bruised ego, a 20-year-old grudge he'd nursed and doted on for the off chance he'd get to indulge it one day. Christ, what a CNT. "Slow down, old man," said Poker Face. "You're no spring chicken, you have to pace yourself." "Gotta do something to amuse myself while you jack off over there," Husk growled. A thundering explosion rocked the hotel, rattling the windows and almost knocking over the bottle of Johnny Walker Black, saved only by the quick hands of Razzle, who cast a wide-eyed stare at Husk. Poor little guy was scared out of his mind. He had to get them out of this. "Hear that?" Husk said, turning back to Poker Face. "Sounds like your buddies found Kira." "Oh, yes. That certainly sounded like one of Clean's party favors. I'm not worried, though. God-given's got an ace up his sleeve. Clean doesn't stand a chance, maybe." Husk wasn't particularly interested in how these idiots measured their PP, but whatever gave him some breathing space was a godsend. "Yeah. Do tell." Poker Face sipped his scotch, still on his first glass. "Well, you see, Holy Diver gave God-given his powers, or did he just copy them? God-given is Holy Diver's son, so maybe that's why it worked. Anyway, now our boy can freeze time and all that. Neat, huh? Holy Diver can freeze time. Is that what all that was?" Husk probed, hoping to get this prick off on a good long tangent. "Say, do you know how you got your powers? I mean, you're gonna kill me or whatever, right?" "Oh, come on, kitten. I won't tell anyone." Poker Face pondered this for a moment and shrugged. "Why not? I've always had these powers, even when I was alive. Same goes for most of our gang. Some of them, like Donnie, they got their powers later from the arrow. The arrow? Asked Husk, almost intrigued. Poker Face eyed Husk up a bit before grinning, jabbing a finger at him. Ah. Nice try. Move it along, furball, we don't got all day. Fine, Husk grunted, tapping the table with his claws. Raise. 1 soul. Poker Face made a show of counting. 1 for me and 1 for you. Cut the horseshit, I know how your game works. I raised Dazzle's soul. Poker Face looked over at Dazzle, who swallowed and nodded his assent. All right. I raised 2. Razzle's soul. Razzle let out a small, defeated bleat. The sawing buzz of automatic fire blared from somewhere not too far above their heads. Husk's brow creased a tiny increment, his poker face holding well enough. He knew the sound of Tommy guns when he heard them. Eye up. Poker Face smirked and thumbed his nose. That'd be Bug Boogie having a go at your friend up there. Sounds like the SLT's fighting back. Maybe he'll get smart and turn those choppers on himself. Husk didn't say anything. Poker Face leaned in, winking at Husk. Between you and me, Bug's a bit of AF in creep. I've seen what weird SHT he does with his victims. Creeps me out. But, you know, that's hell for you. He's deadlier than an angel's PP, and twice as hard. The things he's doing to that spider. Woof. Make an archdevil blush. Husk's eye twitched somewhat. No. None of that. Can't let. On that he got to you, even a little. But man. Poker Face said, eyes glinting. That's nothing compared to what Moonshine's doing to those ladies. He's a decent enough guy, but you tell him to kill someone. Ouch. Let's hope he keeps the princess in a big enough piece to bargain with. As for that spicy one-eyed tamale, it's gonna be some real slow, messy doing, I tell you. Vaggy, too. No. Husk was determined to power through it, that he betray not a single mode of feeling to this but's bait. Poker Face examined his face for a bit, testing his dour mien. Yeah, didn't you know? All your friends are being chased by our boys. Even if Clean gets past God-given, he's got us to deal with, and you'll all be our hostages. See, Clean, he cares about you all for some reason. I guess the princess was onto something. Yeah, you'll all be leverage if he gets in our face. He scares you that badly? Husk sneered. Billy Badass Poker Face is grabbing some meat shields between him and a PP in the Valentino suit. You know it. Poker Face's smile drew down into a grimace. Me? I can steal souls, OG demon SHT bugs fast enough to dodge bullets and can tear people apart like he's pruning a hedge. Moonshine strong as a mothalf and can crust a target up with barnacles and poke them with his harpoon. God-given can even summon an army of exorcists to wipe out an entire neighborhood. But everyone, and I mean everyone, gives Clean a wide berth. One bomb and, bam, dead. No backsies, no two ways about it. Just poof, you're gone to the next place, or nothing, whatever it is on the other side of this shithole. Understand that Holy Diver isn't F around here. If we can't have Clean, then no one will, least of all Lucifer. So stall and PSS about all you like, Husk. You're gonna lose. Husk peeked at his cards, a king of spades and a 6. 2 pair. Not bad. But what if the F'er had 2 6s? OT 2 2s. Unlikely, but. I raised. Poker Face snapped at Dazzle. Throw down the turn, you idiot. Dazzle scrambled for the card, slapping it down face up next to the flop. It was the king of hearts. 2 pair with a high end. That's nothing to sneeze at. Still, it left the 2-2 scenario, but. Husk slapped his cards down. I raise. She was fast, certainly, but there was more to a fight than speed. He was down an arm, but experience was the best teacher in hell, and he was well learned. Vaggie parried a slash only to have him let go of his harpoon for enough of an instant to deliver a devastating punch to her gut. Before she could even double over, his hand was back on the harpoon, raining slashing and stabs down on her like rain. Her guard was drawn up, opening her midsection up for a knee, an opportunity her took full advantage of, lifting her off her feet with the force of the blow. She couldn't so much as exhale before a bone-shattering heel kick swept across her upper body, hurling her through the air. Vaggie cried out as she flew into the wall, caving in the plaster and lathing. She barely had time to get her feet on the ground before she had to raise her spear, catching Moonshine's harpoon in a shower of sparks. The towering fish demon leaned on her with his massive weight, muscles bulging as he strained down on top of her. Vaggie's arms and legs trembled under the strain, but she held him at bay. "You know, when I said I'd kill you painlessly," Moonshine growled. "I didn't think you'd make it this hard." He hooked the flue of his harpoon down on her and pressed her against the wall and, in an explosive display of raw strength, swatted her clean through the mass of plaster and wood, sending her flying across the adjacent hallway and into the wall. She crumpled to the ground on her hands and knees, gasping in pain. Moonshine stepped through the hole and towered over her, harpoon drawn and ready to deliver the killing blow. He paused for a moment and considered his options. A wide, yellow-toothed grin spread across his elongated face. He wound back and unleashed a brutal kick to Vaggie's ribs, sending her flying down the hall tumbling across the floor. "Geez, it's like kicking a rock." Moonshine walked casually towards her, almost swaggering. "You know what? I have to thank you, sister. Sending the princess away like that. You went and made my job a hell of a lot easier. I mean, I could have kept her alive, maybe, but killing you with her around would have been a pain in the butt. I mean, keeping people alive isn't exactly my forte, you know. So, thanks. You sent the person I needed alive away and kept the person I needed to kill around. It works out for everyone." Vaggie spat BLD and glared up at him through her bangs. "Well, everyone who counts," said Moonshine, raising his harpoon over his head as he towered over her. His harpoon swung down in a glittering arc, smashing into the floorboard where Vaggie used to be, shattering them in a shower of splinters. Two of Moonshine's eyes followed Vaggie as she dove between his legs. She rolled onto her knees and swung out with her spear at his Achilles tendon. She struck only air. Vaggie's eye widened as a shadow fell over her. All of Moonshine's tremendous bulk fell on her midsection in a knee drop. Vaggie gasped breathlessly, her eye wide and glazed before falling unconscious. Moonshine slowly rose to his feet, looking down at her and smiling. He stabbed his harpoon into the floor. He grabbed her by the neck and hoisted her effortlessly off the ground and slammed her against the wall. A mass of barnacles formed around her shoulders, spreading across her chest like a rash, sticking her fast to the wall. "Phew," Moonshine said, shaking his head. "You know, you got sand, kid. I mean, I've had a couple, decades on you, but you didn't make it easy. Hell, if you fell in with our crew, you'd have been a contender for sure." Vaggie shakily managed to raise her head enough to glare at him. "Also, I gotta say, that's a hell of a stink eye you have there," he said, grinning. "Do you practice in a mirror or something?" "It just happens when shitheads F with me," said Vaggie, her voice hoarse. "Keep talking, Fish D. Fish D. Do I look like some kind of acid drinker to you?" Moonshine said, leaning in. "Why do you want me to keep talking? I guess every second I talk, is a second I'm not carving you apart, eh?" Vaggie smirked. "No, every second you talk is a second Charlie has to sweet-talk that psycho into coming back down in that elevator and turning you into chum while you're still alive." Moonshine spared the elevator a glance, betraying his apprehension. Vaggie grinned and seized upon this. "They have a thing, you know. He likes hands, you know that, right?" "Sure you do. Well, she's got the best pair in all of hell. She can get him to do anything. She'll come back down with him, and he'll be carving you up like AF turkey." Moonshine stepped back from her, Eyeing the elevator defensively, he wrenched his harpoon from the floor and leveled it at her throat. Well, I guess I should just gut you and be done with it, then. Yeah. Vaggie smirked. You should have. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 8. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author WriteAnon on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.